Live in high definition, this is KX News.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to ABC 7 News. I'm Allie Nelson.
And I'm Gabby Menezes, and today we're touching light upon all everyone seems to be talking about, what they call the Compromise of 1850.
That's right, Gabby. There's been a lot of talk about this compromise and what it will be doing for our country, and we're here to inform you on the facts.
Yes, we are, Allie. This compromise is summed up as a series of 5 congressional statutes that the government is saying is going to calm the sectional crisis we are undergoing.
That is indeed what they are saying, Gabby. This compromise has also made the promise that California would be made a free state and the abolition of the slave auction and deports in the District of Columbia.
But like everything else, this compromise has a downfall. It is said that this compromise will enact and strengthen a new fugitive slave law.
This federal law is going to make it easier for slaveholders to recapture runaway slaves and easier for kidnappers to take free blacks back.
That's correct, Allie. This law has already become an object of hatred in the North, and the anger is rising for that reason.
Also, as a result of Southern pressures, a new rule has come about. Suspected fugitives are now being denied a jury trial, the right to testify on their own behalf, and other basic constitutional rights.
Yes, Allie, that's very true, and as a result of that, there are now basically no effective safeguards against false identification by accusers or against the kidnapping of blacks who were legally free.
An example of this is the case of Anthony Burns. Last week in Boston, an anti-slavery mob led by armed abolitionists collected outside the courthouse where Anthony Burns was being held on trial.
There they tried to free him from the courthouse where his hearing was taking place, and one of the men guarding Burns was killed, but the fugitive himself could not be reached.
Ultimately, Burns was declared an escaped slave and escorted by the U.S. Army to his waiting ship.
That's right, Allie. Now we will transition to Boston, where our field reporter, Henry Rutman, will be catching up and interviewing Anthony Burns.
Yes, be sure to tune into this special interview with the legend in the making, Anthony Burns himself.
With me here I have Anthony Burns, a slave who has recently escaped the grasp of slavery. How are you, Anthony?
My friends, I'm very glad to have to say, have it to feel, that I am very once more in the land of liberty, that I am with those who are my friends.
I'm very excited for you, Anthony. Running away must have been a very exhilarating experience. What made you want to run away from everything that was happening?
Until my 10th year, I did not care what became of me, but soon after I began to learn that there is a Christ who came to make us free. I began to hear about the North and to feel the necessity for freedom and soul in my body. I heard of the North where men of color could live without a man daring to say them, "You are my property." And I was determined by the blessing of God one day to find my way there.
It's a very compelling reason. I can tell why you left. Did your feelings just topple over for you and you decided to run away?
A hand was put on my shoulder and someone said, "Stop, stop. You are the fellow who broke into the silver man's shop the other night." I assured the man that it was a mistake, but almost before I could speak, I was lifted up off my feet by 6 of 7 others. A man then come in the door. He didn't open it like an honest man would, but kind and slowly opened it and looked in. He said, "How do you do, Mr. Burns?" And I called him, as we do in Virginia, Master.
That must have been a very hard experience for you after you just recently escaping from your master's possession. What was that like as you were taken away?
I witnessed thousands of men lining in the street watching me as I was carried away. I found it very curious but also infuriating that no one tried to help me. I would have done something if I was a bystander, had the same event occurred with someone else.
Your bravery throughout the event is commendable. We now know how you were arrested and taken away, but you're standing in front of me now. How did you manage to get free?
I was fortunate to gain the support of a local church which paid the money for me and paid my bail for releasing. I will forever be in debt of the people of that church.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you again for talking with us, Anthony. I hope that you keep your freedom for the rest of your days.
Nice.
We've just received footage of an attempted kidnapping.
Now, no African American is safe anywhere.
Gentlemen, you've made a mistake. There's a place of business. I'm a tailor to my clients. I'm a free man. I'm not a slave, gentlemen.
We're going live to Gabby and Allie with an interview of Professor Henry Gates.
We have with us here Professor Henry Gates Jr. from Harvard University to give us a little more insight on this law and what it's all about. Professor Gates, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Professor, can you further your explanation on what exactly this law is all about?
If you were a slave and you managed to escape to the north, your master could come and get you and you have no recourse.
Unfortunately, this new fugitive slave law has made it easier for slave owners to recapture their runaway slaves. It has also made it easier for kidnappers to take free blacks, as shown in this video. We have been receiving clips such as these all morning. So, Professor, could you tell us what would happen if you were a free Negro?
Well, believe it or not, if you are a free Negro, they still can sell you down the river. The search for runaway slaves has become a witch hunt. Any African American can be condemned simply with an accusation. Even a free man has no right to trial by jury.
There have been some rumors of federal magistrates receiving more pay in certain trials than in others. Do you know anything about
In
this?
fact, this is true. Federal magistrates get $10 to rule fugitive slaves, $5 to set them free.
That's unbelievable!
Well,
Well-
thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you very much for coming out, Professor.
It's been an honor.
It was a
True
pleasure to
pleasure.
meet you.
Yeah. Coffee lunch?
And now to our field reporter, Maggie Lynch, who is outside the home of a free black man who has been denied entry to his home earlier today.
That's right, Allie. I am outside the home of a man whose name has not yet been released. A crowd has begun to gather after the sight of two white males approaching and attacking said occupant while he was walking home in broad daylight.
That's unbelievable. So many occurrences similar to this one have taken place since the talk of the new fugitive law arose.
Yes, they really have become more common. Joining me now is John Smith, who witnessed the altercation from his home. So what exactly did you see happen this morning?
Well, I was sitting on my porch when I noticed my neighbor walking toward his house. He was then approached by two large men who proceeded to push him around to the ground.
Had you seen these two men before?
No, I had never seen them, either of them, before today. However, when they spoke, I was able to identify a southern accent.
Mr. Smith, how long have you known your neighbor?
Having grown up in this house, I have known him for as long as I can remember. Our families get together quite often. I'm just shocked at how this all happened. Growing up in the north, you never think of your neighbor being beaten outside of his home because of his skin color.
I agree. It is quite concerning to see these situations occurring as we have not accustomed to such run-ins. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Smith. Have a great day. And now back to you, Nicole.
In Washington, Nicole Collins, Fox News. It's Fox News.
Fox News. Fox News.